Well, another controversial ad campaign is hitting U.S. cities. They caused outrage in New York City and Washington, D.C., but now they've been slapped on buses in Chicago and Denver. Here are the ads that are being called racist and divisive. The first one there reads 19,207 deadly Islamic attacks since 9/11 and counting. It's not Islamophobia, it's Islamorealism. The other one states, this is the one that we did see here in D.C. and also they popped up in New York. In any war between the civilized man and the savage, support the civilized man, support Israel, defeat jihad. Now, the ads are sponsored by Pamela Geller's American Freedom Defense Initiative. So is this ad campaign dividing communities, or is it perfectly fair free speech? To discuss, I'm joined by Ayman Al-Sayed, co-founder of Existence is Resistance. Welcome there, Ahmed. So these ads, the new ones there that are popping up on, are being slapped to buses in Chicago and Denver. They call their campaign Islamorealism. Your reaction to that wording?
I think that's false. They're trying to justify these racist ads again. I consider them Islamophobic, extremely racist, divisive, and trying to instigate hatred of Muslim Americans and Muslims around the world. And it's really disturbing that they're back up again. You know, she may have a right to free speech and to put them up, but we have to acknowledge that it's hate speech.
Now, do you think that the ads target extremists? Because that's what Pamela Geller has said in interviews in the past. Or do you think they target Muslims as a whole?
I think they're targeting Muslims as a whole, Asians, Arabs, anybody who may even look like they're from the Middle East who aren't, because racists who see these ads and start hating on a group of people, they're just going to target you based on how you look, just like they did with the Sikh community that was shot by this racist Wade Pages who went and shot up the Sikh temple. So I don't believe that these ads are targeting extremists at all. I believe they're targeting Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, Palestinians, Lebanese, South Asians, Pakistanis, people of different backgrounds who practice Islam.
So there are reports of an Islamic ad campaign now that's in the works. It's entitled My Jihad. And, you know, it says these ads, one of them there said, defeat jihad. What does that mean to you? I know the literal translation means struggle. What does that mean to you?
To me personally, jihad, and to many people I know, jihad means working hard, waking up, taking care of your family, paying your bills, going to school, going to work, being a good neighbor, treating people with respect, being loving, and that's what jihad means to me. You know, these ads, they're false for a couple of reasons. The first reason is she tries to say that you must, if you don't support Israel, you are a savage. But as we see what's going on now in Gaza, what Israel is doing is savagery against the people in Gaza and the Palestinians, not being against Israel. If you're against Israeli policies, you should be, because they are killing people as we speak right now. In this interview, people are dying in Gaza. There's nothing civilized about bombing homes and hospitals and schools and occupying a whole people. She's trying to tell us that it's civilized to support apartheid against the Palestinians. That's what these ads are basically about, to justify Israeli colonialism against the Palestinian people. And we want to say that that's wrong, that's savagery, what's going on against the Palestinians.
I know that on the flip side, what they are going to say that it's also savagery to be hurling rockets into Israel.
It's really uncomparable, you know? I mean, just looking at the death toll, the Palestinians, already over 115 have been killed, a large amount of children, civilians are the majority of the victims. Israel anybody has barely been killed by these rockets. It's really kind of a joke to try to compare the both. Israel is the one committing these savage crimes against the Palestinians. Even former President Jimmy Carter said Israel doesn't want peace. They just want a continual war.
Well, a lot of these rockets have been intercepted, so I think it's fair to say that the technology in Israel is far more advanced.
Yes, definitely. The technology is far more advanced, and Israel is the one that instigated all of this in the first place, not the Palestinians, not the rockets from Hamas. Israel has been continuing to build settlements, continuing to occupy Palestinian land, continuing to kill people every day. We might not hear it on the media, but every day somebody is killed, shot, jailed, young kids in jail. So, you know, the media tries to portray it as it all started with Hamas rockets. That's totally false. It did not start with that. It started with Israel being the aggressor, continuing its policy of apartheid and colonialism against the Palestinian people, and that has to end. For there to be any real settlement, an end to the violence, Israel has to be put in its place and told by the UN and the United States to stop the occupation, stop killing people, stop firing missiles, because there's nothing civilized about that at all.
Okay. Since 9/11, it appears that, or we've seen a lot more reports of hate crimes. And would you say that these ads feed into Islamophobia, excuse me? And as a member of the Muslim community, what's your take on that?
That's the reason I'm against the ads. You know, I believe in freedom of speech, but I'm going to say these ads are hate speech. Just the NYPD today, along with the FBI, just mentioned that they're getting together with the hate crime task force to investigate a possible serial killer in Brooklyn murdering Middle Eastern shop owners. 3 Middle Eastern shop owners have been shot to death in Brooklyn, one on Flatbush Avenue, one in Bensonhurst, and one in Bay Ridge. This is a guy who's targeting Middle Eastern shop owners. He goes in there in the evening and starts shooting them. Now the NYPD saying they believe it's a hate crime, that he's a serial killer intentionally targeting people based on their ethnicity. Just last week, there was a man who stabbed another man in front of a mosque in Queens and hurled some anti-Islamic hate speech towards him. So I believe there has been an increase in hate crimes against the Muslim community, the Arab community, the South Asian community after 9/11, but also with these ads now. And I believe these ads are instigating exactly what we're talking about, hate crimes and violence against American citizens who just happen to be Muslim or look like they're from another country different than what these people want them to be. And that's unfortunate, and that's why these ads are dangerous.
Here in D.C. And in New York, they tried to prevent these ads from going up, but it was ruled, as we had mentioned, that it's free speech. What do you think? Do you think that these kinds of ads that some find very offensive and divisive should not be allowed to be put up?
You know, that's a debate that's going to, go on for a long time. I want to say clearly that I believe it is hate speech, but, does hate speech, do people have a right to promote hate speech? Maybe they do. Maybe there is a space to go hide under free speech. But let us be clear that this free speech is hateful, is racist, promoting violence, and that we have to be clear about that. Because I believe there's a double standard. If it was the opposite of, Muslims putting up anti-Jewish ads, I don't believe it would be tolerated as much. That's the point I want to make, that there might be freedom of speech, but what is tolerated and what is not? It seems like if you're targeting one group of people, they'll justify it under free speech, but if you target another group of people, they'll say, no, this is anti-Semitic, this is racist, this is not allowed, this is unacceptable in our civilized society. I just want them to say the same when it comes to hatred against all people, not just against one group of people. There should be, that if there's hatred against anybody, we should speak out against it and say that, just like there's been ads that are countering these ads, one by rabbis for human rights and the other by a Christian group called Sojourners. They've been putting up these ads saying, love thy Muslim neighbors, and the choice between hatred and love, choose love. And, and I believe that's been an appropriate response to these racist ads. But I want to be clear that she's trying to say that if you don't support Israel, then you're a savage. But as we see right now happening in Gaza, it's totally false. If you support Israel, you are supporting savagery.
Okay. We are out of time, Ayman, but really, really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
That was Ayman El-Sayed, co-founder of Existence is Resistance.